Well, greetings. I should be live, and I'm going to share this with some other folks. Facebook and Twitter X. Okay. So, Dark Desert Highway. Hi. Hello. I'm doing well, and I'm glad you came in because I enjoyed your post the other day about iniquity and describing the origin of that word of repeated anti-kingdom of God behavior and ways that ends up digging us into a groove like a road, digging our pathway that it becomes impossible, almost impossible, let me put it that way, to get out of once you get into it because you get deeper and deeper into it. And, in my way of thinking, you stop part of that groove, a groove in a negative sense, or rut might be a better word for it, because there's no growth that can come from it. I mean, true growth in terms of towards a closer relationship with a level above human, the kingdom of God or the kingdom in the heavens that Jesus all talked about so much, and Moses and Enoch and Adam. Well, I don't know about Adam talking about it, but because we don't have too much record of things that Adam was said to have said. I have seen some things. But anyway, that was really good to see you express. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this whole idea of Zion because my partner Kathy shared with me a uh, a reel, I think it was from Facebook, that was somebody, a young woman that was um, expressing very well um, uh, the many perspectives that show that this is that what's happening now, especially, um, uh, is horrible. It's it's a takeover, more or less, even though it's been under a certain amount of control for a long time. Uh, I believe it's two different space alien groups vying for power in the United States, and there might be more than one, more than two, I mean, and vying for the most power. And they're both anti uh, reality that this planet was created and the life forms on it by highly intelligent, highly evolved, beyond human, non mammalian, non seed bearing, very intelligent, very compassionate, very passionate, I guess that's the same word, about how they're providing a school of life on this planet and for the development of life. All the life systems, all the systems are have their own degrees of life. And without all of them, there couldn't be, as far as we can tell, an arena for choosing who to look to for that life. And there's only two directions to look to, according to Tiendo, and I believe that makes sense to me after being with them for all those years and seeing how no lies came out of their mouths. Because they weren't trying to lure people into anything. In fact, just the opposite is true. They wanted to even give you reasons to leave so that you could show that it was your total free will to be with them in their program. Anyway, but so I believe that it's between um, working in their direction, conscious or not, fully conscious or not, degrees of consciousness, of course. It's a process. It's not a static condition. You can be engaged in it one moment and not engaged the next. You could be, you could go backwards and you could get to a place where you don't want to continue anymore and you can ask for help for the highest source you can imagine existing, and you find yourself having the strength to take a step in a direction that uh, um, is of true goodness and true rightness. Rightness meaning what's true, what's real, what's actually taking place, the facts about why this planet is here and the purpose of it, instead of all the imaginary facts that are based on when those facts were brought before. And Dark Desert Highway says, that's really cool that you watch some of my content. I enjoy your content as well. That's why I like to view your channel. Yes, I mean, yeah, I don't, as everybody else probably, I mean, we only have so much time. And I've always got so much on my mind dealing with everyday life and together with Kathy dealing with everyday life and what's happening in the world and how to adjust to things, and I just don't have that much time. So when I come across when I'm either relaxing or trying to catch up on what's being talked about in the reels of Facebook, that's where I think I saw your post, and that's really a good place these days, I think, because there's a lot of things that are being surfaced there that to me are very positive. And there's some garbage too, of course, but it's selective. Oh, let's see, I don't have my top chat on. Okay, so I want to get into the Zion a little bit because this person was talking about on the stream that or this reel that Kathy sent me that it's not that we're being run by the Zionists. So who are the Zionists? Well, they're the people that took over, that went against. They're the descendants of the people that went against Jesus and his followers. Largely, that's the summary of them, brought up to date. than the descendants of those that went against them. Because it went into, there were wars that happened, many wars, that was all part of what, Jesus said was going to happen. And so there were a lot of them, and you can document them right along with the seven trumpets, in my opinion, even though I tried to document it pretty well with the first trumpet being part of which was World War One, and the sounding of that. The trumpets are the soundings, which is the reverberation. It's the vibration of the next level mind. It's the vibration and the words uh, uh, is that vibration, is that trumpet sound, is the song of the Revelation song of the new song talked about in Revelation 14. And that's where Zion is talked about. And it is talked about as a mountain. It's a continent. But it's not only a continent, uh, no, it's not really a continent. It's the mind of the human kingdom, but not all of it, because there's all different parts of it, even including individuals that are working towards that ultimate goodness, which doesn't mean that people aren't held accountable for their bad behavior. But how it's done is what's very important to staying on track with the highest source guidance. Because the highest source doesn't need us, and so they don't uh, make it easy on us to not slip into the same fighting fire with fire that other people in their own pathways easily, what I believe is succumb to. And you can understand it to some degree because there is a self-defense aspect to it. And but to me, um, I have to ask what I believe is my connection with Tiendo, um, how to respond to all these horrible things that are happening, like with the Epstein files, and related to almost all the presidents. They, some things that recently I saw talked about, went back to George H.W. Bush and how, and I already knew that they were all connected to the royal families of Europe, primarily in Russia and other places, but in the Middle East and but now it's coming to the fore. Obviously, it's not like something you're reading about happening. The abuse of children. Yes, it's been going on for thousands and thousands of years, if not before this civilization and other civilizations. Yes, racism has been going on for the same amount of time. Yes, sexism is going on, or genderism is going on, since the beginning of time as we can understand it, and also aggressive behavior, manipulating people, and cheating and lying and putting out misinformation and so now that these things are surfacing more and more, the whole space alien subject is surfacing more and more with more and more things, and it gives the opportunity for people to look at that and all the the horrible sex crimes, or not just sex crimes, they're murdering babies, and I'm not talking about abortion, even though I've been for a long time I've been thinking that that's one of the reasons why they're uh, like even many times maybe even pushing abortion and later term, and later term because they want those body parts. That's not an illusion. That's not a conspiracy theory. And I know a lot of things have been called conspiracy theories because I know that the mainstream, the Zionists, don't want it to be talked about. So who are the Zionists? Well, they're the people that are ruling by their belief. So it's not ruling by reality necessarily. It's ruling by their belief. Okay? So you don't have to be a religionist to be a Zionist, because the origin of that word has to do with an elevated area. Okay, uh, and so the United States is the most recently elevated area, geographical area, or North America, or North America and South America. I'm not trying to distinguish who is better or worse, but what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter because it goes to the whole globe, to people's desire for the truth. And we are having a one world government. It's not just under Biden and the WEF, the Gates Foundation and the World Economic Forum, and that brought on the reaction to the COVID virus and all that, and the testing of it on people, in order to try to build vaccines that they can use in their underground cities or wherever they are to cure all viruses. That's what they want to do. And I don't blame them for wanting to do that. Why wouldn't you? If you got nothing else to live for, if you don't have the perspective of uh, creators being individuals to look to and live for, and one another and how we treat each other is part of how we. So if you see somebody that's saying they are working for the Creator and they are saying praise God and praise the Lord and all this stuff, but then they're authorizing people killing each other, killing people for protesting when they weren't even doing anything, and then lying about it. If you're willing to do that, you're definitely not working for the creators of this planet and the life forms on it, because that's like a prime directive that humans aren't, they're like in sixth grade in a 12th grade school. So they learn to read and write, okay, by sixth grade and other things, basic ideas. And that's about where, in science, all the sciences, you know, that's just because that looks highfalutin and is in many ways. To me, it's a lot of things are magical in the sense that, the way the internet works and everything. I have some knowledge of how that works. Actually, it's building blocks of software and for firmware and hardware. I understand all that. I think pretty well because I was a programmer for 20 years. It's not like it's a foreign way of thinking. So I know how it came about, and I know that it is. There's a lot of really great technology that's being developed as we speak, and but that's not evolution of mind. The next level, when somebody becomes a member of the next level, all that technology that they learned about in the human kingdom uh, maybe of some value for some laboratory in the next level to have the, the type of mind that looks at things certain ways, but that can get really in the way of making application for membership in the kingdom of God. That's all any human is doing. at any given time. If they're going in that direction in some spiritual way, some religious way, or even some scientific way, it's not, or whatever way you can describe somebody's own pathway, that they want to become something, or they want to be more than they are. They want to have more than they have. And that can be a big distraction, having things and then supporting those things, because um, we can find ourselves not wanting to ask the next level for help. So that's where it's good to be poor, because maybe you're going to ask the next level for help to make your bills, or to where your next meal is going to come from. Where if you've got all that money, you don't ask, right? In fact, you don't want to ask because you're afraid that maybe the way you're making that money is not going to find favor and they'll take it away from you. I mean, that's reality. That's reality. I know some of that reality in my own experience in the human kingdom after I left the group, because that's the only time I really got experience, and still getting experience in the human kingdom with my own less than best points of view and ways of talking and attitudes and uh, uh, you know uh, application of next level behaviors and ways. Anger issues and jealousies and selfishness. Those are all the primary things that T said were um, like insulating our magnetism. In other words, blocking our magnetism from going out and blocking our magnetism from drawing in from the next level and going out to try to do tasks for the next level. For uh, and that can be happening in all different kinds of ways. I mean, it's happening in all different kinds of ways. This person I was talking about, the Zionists having running, they're saying, like, the primary definition of Zionist, of course, is in that Judeo-Christian heritage, right? Um, uh, Islamic is part of that, because they recognize Jesus and as a prophet, and they go back to Abraham as well. So it's the Abrahamic religions that are one focus, but the Hindu and the Buddhist are also another focus. That's not it's equivalent in some ways, and but it was meant, I believe, to come together as through the new information, which is what Tiendo brought and crew, because a number of souls came with Tiendo from their spacecrafts with uh, uh, no with the physical bodies that they received, the glorified bodies in Christian terms, that they received when they graduated the first time, which wasn't the final graduation for them, because it's becoming an adult member of the next level would be kind of like a final graduation. But until then, individuals get all kinds of tasks to bring the truth to people and to help with the whole project of having a school on Earth to recognize the reality that the people that created the Earth and the life forms on it, that structure, that kingdom level of life, that evolutionary kingdom level above human, That's the terminology that Tiendo used in 1975. They didn't hardly say any kind of spiritual words. They did. They had to address it to some degree because that's the record books. That's the record of the next level's relationship. I'm not talking about just the Bible, because I mean the Bible's got a bunch of garbage in it too. You know, so but some of it, you know, I mean even the garbage that was inserted in there was you know was manipulated and changed and put different focus on according to what they found, and it was easier to include in like the New Testament, like with Paul's material, because it wasn't so strong, it wasn't so difficult, so it was diluted. But the next level knows that it's going to be diluted every time they send their older members and student body to perform a new task of updating the human kingdom, the minds. So you got to remember that. Jeffy will be home any minute. In case I don't hear her come up, maybe she'll send me a text. Um, so Zion, you know, in Revelation says, you know, they saw 144,000 uh, standing on Mount Zion. Well, isn't it interesting? I mean, I can't help but think this, but after I joined with Tiendo and I had no real interest in UFOs, uh, but it made sense to me that they had transportation, members of the next level, and they were physical, and they were many membered, and they weren't religious. That all made sense to me. Okay, so, but then I was traveling around because I got separated from T and O and the groups that were still organized to stay together as they moved around the country, United States and Canada, holding meetings, public meetings. And so I got separated from that, and that's a long story. And I ended up uh, going south because I was getting snowed on, and I was in a sleeping bag with my partner, not both in the same sleeping bag, but uh, my partner and I had sleeping bags and backpacks, and the car broke down that with the people that we were with, and so we started hitchhiking south. We were in Vermont at the time, and we're getting snowed on while sleeping outdoors. So that wasn't pleasant. So I went south and eventually got to Corpus Christi, Texas, and I on the beach on the sand of the sea, you know, uh, I saw a big Z in the sky, drawn by a big bright object that didn't seem far away. It was very bright, very large to my view, and it went like from north to south, adjacent to the right over the Gulf of Mexico. And I put my sleeping bag down, and my partner was down the beach a few feet, and she put her sleeping bag down, and I don't know what she was doing. She was brushing her teeth or something, but she wasn't looking up. I was standing there looking up, and I saw this streak of light, fast as possible, as you can imagine, long, long duration, very bright, and then it did a right angle turn, so that now, if it was going to continue, it would have went into the Gulf of Mexico. But instead, it did another right angle turn, so that it continued to be. And I watched it go out of sight, and all within like 3 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, that happened. And I watched it go out of sight in the south, and and that made like a Z, like a Z, like a Canadian Z with straight angles on it. Um, but I mean, I don't know if that's related to Zion or not, because you can also spell it Sion, and it has to do with the mountain. And it also has to do with the way that it was used in the New Testament, but not by Jesus per se, or quoted as Jesus, which I believe some of the disciples were taking notes. That's why the stories are so similar, but yet different, between Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And Tiendo said that those red letters, basically, that Jesus' words were made into red letters by one King James version, which Tiendo said those red letters were kept accurate by a next level crew. In other words, they didn't let the lower forces push humans into hiding that material to where it wouldn't ever come out again or destroying it. So they felt to preserve it. You know, even if they didn't believe in it, they knew there was something to preserve there. And so, but said that next level crew had to work very hard to keep the lower forces from completely messing that material up. It was able to be messed up a little bit because of translations between languages. That becomes a big way to lose the original meaning, or some of the original meaning. But the core original meaning is there, and you can see all the verses that were quoted by Doe and crew in the back of the Heaven's Gate book. Um, uh, that demonstrate uh, the separation from the human kingdom. That Tiendo said that even if you never heard about Tiendo, people were separating from the human kingdom uh, in their own way. And they would also be saved for a future opportunity, to have a opportunity to advance to their next station, and even graduation to adult membership in the next levels, and to have significant service, or to be saved, to have, you know to it's not lesser, but it's not uh this this has to be done. It has to be done by somebody's desire. They have to, like Dark Desert Highway was saying in the stream, that in the reel that he posted, that the word iniquity, if I understood it right, because I haven't looked that up and studied that word, had to do with like making a groove in the road. That somebody is making the same groove by the same behavior, or they're making a deeper and deeper groove that they're not gonna be able to get out of. So that's happening in the human kingdom, okay? And we're all in it. We're in that groove. We all have our own grooves that we're in. But if we're asking the next level to get out of those grooves by our behavior, by our desire, not just by asking that question, even though that's part of it too, big time, to be actually talking to them as if they're real, because they are, then part of the process of getting out of that groove includes getting their information out, getting T and Doe's information out, which includes the thinking of how wrong things are happening in the human kingdom, how it's a snake pit. There's so much deceit, so much manipulation, so much horrible, horrible behavior, and by people that think it's okay. They think it's even right. They can even think that children have old souls, and that they really want to do these terrible things with these men, uh, um, or that is good for them in some way, or who knows what crappy thinking they have, completely evil thinking they have, because that's the other side of the coin. One side of the coin is this whole Judeo-Christian structure, and this other side of the coin is the is also linked to the Judeo-Christian, but is also linked to the Hindu Buddhist. Now that's not to put down people that are Hindus or Buddhist or Islam or Judaic or Christian, because it's up to each individual to be what they want to be, to desire what they desire. And I'm going to be cutting this short because Kathy's just come home, I think, and I want to spend some time with her because she's been working. But I just wanted to get that out. So, I mean, uh, hello. I can't. I was gonna. Yeah, you home?
No. Are you streaming?
Yeah, I am. But I was gonna stop the stream when you got home.
I don't want you to. I just sent you a message, but you didn't get it.
I was
So I'm
about to
gonna
look
tell.
at it. I heard the ping.
Can you stop?
Yeah.
Stop. I'm very agitated right now, so I don't want you to come outside and help me. In fact, you will piss me off if you do, because I want. Okay.
Yeah.
And I want you to keep streaming because I need time to decompress.
Okay.
And I'm not going to be able to decompress if I have to like assure you that I'm okay or whatever.
Okay.
I just need. Yeah, so you just keep streaming and do your thing because I am happy for that.
All right. I unlocked the door for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love you.
I love you too. I'll see you in a few minutes.
Yeah, just act like I'm not even there, okay?
Okay.
I love you.
That's not possible though.
I know, but I mean, I'm just
I
saying,
know.
like,
I
don't
know
try
what
to
you're
help me. Don't ask me
I
if you
know.
want anything.
I
Just
know.
leave me
I know.
alone.
I know. I know. I know. Yes, I understand. We're good. I love that person, Kathy. She's so real. I'm not going to talk about her because she'll be back in any minute, and I don't want to distract her from decompressing from her workday, a difficult workday that she had. That she streamed, by the way, if anybody wants to tune into it now or in the future. So, so Zion, um, if I'm still actually streaming here, if I didn't get cut off somehow. Okay. Uh, um, well, let me go to this here. I mean, it talks about Mount Hermon uh, in parts of the record books, and it's called. It's got different names, and the Greek form is the Z with the Z on it. And the way it's used in Matthew and John is talks about the daughters of Zion, and the daughters in that context, but it actually means a parched place. And you can see in Revelation 11 where the two witnesses are talked about going to a parched place, but the term that's used there in Revelation 11 is Sodom and Egypt as being the parched place. But since they were coming to the New Jerusalem, which it talks about in Revelation, that there was going to be a New Jerusalem coming down from the sky. In other words, It could be a spacecraft that's very large and that can actually encompass a large part of the surface of the planet. Can be over it, hovering over it, can have different types of control over the atmosphere in that area or not, you know, um, and can have members of the next level actually hands on working with humans and humans don't even know it, like even helping spirits move from dying in a hospital into the spirit world if their dying was very traumatic and the next level has a way to help them so that they can move on in their evolution and even be of some help to others that were still living. Um, so it's also used as Jerusalem. It's talked about as Jerusalem, and uh, and the word and it's referred to as in these verses. Let me see where I see that. Oh, I didn't copy those verses, did I? Let me see if I have them here. No. Okay, so but it talks about in the two verses that are referenced here as Matthew 21:5 and John 12:15, uh, talking about the daughters of Zion, which was interesting to me that the word daughter came about because the Statue of Liberty, I believe, is talked about in Revelation 18, 17 or 18. Uh, I believe with the idea of the New Babylon, which is the new uh, land of confusion, because that's what I think we're all kind of experiencing degrees of. Oh, is Orion's belt right there? Kathy just came home, and she's got a roar. That's the seven thunders. That's actually the seven thunders in the Revelation 10. That word is actually the root of it is to roar. That's the roar from the Lion of Judah. It talks about it in Revelation 10. That was dough. I believe in every form of context. Um, I think it's not just a belief. It's I can back it up. I got lots of things to back it up, but it is not necessarily easy to come upon that understanding. I happen to be given it, and I recognized it, and so that's um, why I'm trying to share what I got from that experience and continue to get from that rare experience with two older members from the level above human. But so they talk about the word daughter as this word, besides its natural and proper sense, is used to designate a niece or any female descendant. That's from Genesis. Then women as natives of a place or as professing the religion of a place, as the daughters of Zion, daughters of the Philistines. Small towns and villages lying around a city are its daughters, as related to the metropolis or mother city. So the mother, the big city is the mother, and then the daughters are the yes, suburbs? Yes. And Tyre is, in a sense, called the daughter of Sidon, which Tyre and Sidon were part of the area that
Oh, home sweet home.
I'm not that good with my history, so I'm not going to try to describe that more. But the people of Jerusalem are spoken of as the daughters of Zion. All the people.
A little bit of that. Just a little bit. Because I want it. I think I want it. I don't know. Maybe it would be better to drink it. It's quite sugary. And it's got the almond milk, almond creamer in it.
It's good. The
Have,
daughters,
have you looked at your chat?
yes, I did. And there is something new in there. I'll get to it in a second. The daughters of a tree are its boughs. The daughters of music are singing women
What are the
in
boughs
Ecclesiastics.
in relation to the cities? Analogy. So
I don't know.
the mother.
That's just the way it's used in a lot of
The
different
mother
places in
is
the
the
record.
city. The mother is the city.
Yeah.
And
So
then
the mother would be the
suburbs.
trunk in that regard.
So the suburbs are the daughters. The suburbs are the daughters, and the boughs would be the daughters' daughters.
No, the boughs are the suburbs
The,
of the mother city.
but those are the daughters. The
The
boughs
boughs
the
also.
boughs are from the daughters.
They're the branches. Branches are all the
I'm trying to
genetic.
do it in an analogy of a city and a suburb,
Yeah.
and what comes after a suburb, and that's what the boughs are.
I don't think so. I think the suburbs are towns that are around the city,
But
the mother
that,
city.
never mind.
No? That's the way I'm thinking
Never
about it
mind.
anyway.
We have miscommunication problems,
Yeah.
and we get mad. I get mad. You do too.
So there's also the expression "thu gat" for daughter. I don't know if that might be Hebrew, but it's a daughter or a daughter of God, acceptable to God, rejoicing in God's presence, inhabitants and citizens, also a female descendant. And so, okay, so when it says that they sung a new song in Revelation 14, that song was Ti and Do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Now, Ti and Do didn't choose those names on that basis.
Good, you found the remote.
Oh, it was over here.
I know, I put it over there.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I used it actually.
I know you like to watch. It turns off after a certain.
Yeah, it's still in the middle of that. It stopped right there. I wanted to hear the rest of it.
Well, the TV turned itself off already.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If it's on for like, I think over 30 minutes, maybe it's an hour, I don't know. It turns itself off.
Right.
Which is good.
Yeah.
But it's also annoying because you're like, I was right in the middle of something. Jerk.
Hmm.
Okay. Anyway. Okay, let me. Look what those socks do to my ankle. Look at that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got the same thing happening to me. When I come back from the day, it's,
Yeah, I gotta get off my feet, which I plan to do very soon. Like, you're crazy saying that you'd be ready to go to bed at the same time I am.
yeah,
You slept till 2 p.m.
I know, but I feel like I'm still tired.
Well, I'm gonna be ready to go to bed in like 30 minutes or something.
Okay.
Because I got up at 5 a.m.
Well, I mean,
So I don't expect you to come lay down.
all right, well,
In fact, I really don't want you to, because like I said, I need to fucking decompress from the day.
okay, babe. Sounds good.
All right, we'll be appropriate on your stream, but on mine, it's different.
What happens different on your stream?
Well, on my stream, I'm not worried about cussing or saying things, or I'm not saying I'm worried about that on your stream, but that's not
Yeah, I don't.
It's
Doesn't.
not an appropriate place to be popping off on yours. I can pop off on mine all I want to.
That's right. But actually, this is really good that I'm doing this here with this Revelation 14, even though I know people don't like me talking about
I like you talking
scripture
about it.
sometimes, but I have to keep on doing it because it's so different than what people are saying in the mainstream. The Zionists, the people that believe that their religion should rule everything, rule the world, which is what the Trump administration is doing, trying to do, even though it doesn't mean that he's doing everything.
Well, I think they're also involved in, trying to cover up what they've.
Yeah, cover up, right.
They're finally.
Yeah, they're doing that as well. And they're trying to distract.
This whole time.
But, right, they've got plenty of things. Yeah, they got plenty of things that uh, they're doing, and it's horrible that, and they are demonstrating being the opposing force. Hmm. They have to get something to use that with, right?
I have something already.
Oh, you do?
That's why I got this.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm almost out of everything else. And
Oh.
I'm like, well, I have all this other stuff.
Yeah, right. Might as well use what you have.
Exactly. It's a lot harsher and a lot stronger, though.
So in Revelation 14:2, it says, I heard a voice. Um, oh, I'm in the wrong spot here. Sorry. Okay, there it is. Which the word voice is actually phone. And it's used 131 times as voice and 8 times as sound. And so it's a sound, a tone, and it also is talking about inanimate things as musical instruments, a voice,
I love inanimate
of the sound of uttered words,
stuff happening.
speech, of language, and tongue. Okay, so this is the tongue from heaven, is what they're saying. And heaven, the word is Uranus, which has to do with the vaulted expanse of the sky with all things visible in it. The universe, the world, the aerial, the serial heavens or sky, the region where the clouds and the tempests gather, and where thunder and lightning are produced. Okay, that's pretty clear, right? So what that word Oranos means in the Greek. So that's what they're talking about, and they're saying this voice is coming from that. The word "from" is of as well, or out of also, or by. So it's all related to that idea that it's coming. That heaven is stimulating this voice. The heavens, the people in the heavens. Because the occupants of the kingdom in the heavens are the ones with the voice. But I mean, it also includes the tones, the frequencies that the planets are making. That the ideas of astrology and tarot are based on.
The sounds of the cosmos, like you were saying, they were talking about before.
Right, sounds of the cosmos. But like, for instance, I believe that Three Eye Atlas demonstrated many things that were producing different sounds or frequencies. And I believe that all the comets potentially can be doing that. I mean, people.
Yeah, to different degrees, right? Or
Yes.
they're doing specific things, maybe.
Yes, specific things and general things, I think, can be happening.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I think it depends on what the people are, like it even could be providing um, light. Light meaning like like if you go out in the dark outside when there's no sun up and there's no moonlight, it's very hard to see much. And the same thing is with thought, I think, that we need a certain type of light, a certain type of frequency, which is actually the mind of the next level, their words, their ideas, their perspectives, their behaviors and ways. And part of those are, kindness to each other and not, manipulating each other and wanting to treat people the way that you want to be treated. Even though that's used by governments to put us down, doesn't mean that that's not the behavior of the members of the next level, that the meek are the ones that are adopting because they don't want to, they have a greater perspective of reality and let me look at this here a second. Where I put the word meek in here as the description of what it actually means. Um, since I'm getting to that, and it's right here. It's from the Greek word praus, and it's mildness of disposition, gentleness of spirit, toward. This is one sentence toward what we think of as God. Is that disposition of spirit in which we accept God's existence with us and and become and grow towards wholly relying on those older members of the kingdom of God for our strength. When we ask them for help, uh, they help us. If we're asking for something specific and they may give it to us, they may help us have it, um, but they might not. And they may want us to think about maybe we don't want that. Maybe that's not because they know what's good for us. They know what's good for, and that doesn't mean that they impose their will on us. They don't. We have to desire their mind to get it. Although they give us, well, I know this is kind of horrible, but to give us the lower forces to uh, to help us, stimulate us to want help dealing with that. Um, and that becomes and it's also the word meek that's used is also gentleness. It's the opposite of self-assertiveness and self-interest, but not in the context that that's said about. It doesn't mean that you just stand by and let things that are evil uh, um, do terrible things to people, horrible things to people. No, because like Tiendo said, Doe and Cruz said that getting their information out means supporting, helping people recognize um, that they don't have to act that way. They don't have to think that way. They can actually um, open their minds to what's happening and not be so in the dark or complacent as to think, oh well, it's the same way it's always been. And that was kind of the attitude that I had about a number of things that are happening of late. I didn't think I was having that attitude. I thought I had, I thought I knew that things were falling apart here especially in the last since 2000, but before that as well, of course. The whole 1900s, but also in the 1800s. That's why the Civil War happened. Is because the next level was close enough to where individuals were seeing better. They had more energy. They had more perspective. They knew what was right to do. They knew that they couldn't stand it anymore, the way it's been going. That people shouldn't be treated as slaves or serfs or lower class citizens or that they could only be the mother of the family, of the children. That was their primary role. And they couldn't be leaders of organizations. They couldn't own property. All these things that were put on women and by the European people from European descent and ancestry. But it's also, uh, but the vehicles, I think, and the minds that are generated by the vehicles, because it's not just a vehicle. Our bodies aren't just flesh robots. They're not robots at all, really. They're actually driven by the mind. The subconscious mind drives the heartbeat, keeps that going, and all the other things, all the other functions. That I'm not saying that once the heart's beating, those functions are all in motion, right? When the blood's circulating, but then everything else, the energy from the sun and from the minerals and from what we eat, and because what we eat is also getting some of that sun energy in us. Because all those things, like the minerals, all have polarity. They all have positive and negative sides of a electromagnetic force. The atoms are all in circulation around each other. The particles are all in orbit. This isn't accidental. Um, I'm not saying there aren't things that aren't random, and that can't be development of some degrees by survival of the fittest and by uh, different processes in response to stimuli and mutations and things like that. That's all part of the system. To have that fluidity, the next level is very fluid about how their minds work to be willing to be ready to change their strategy when they feel like it's warranted. And they change their strategy according to the responses of humans. So if they see a bunch of humans fed up with government, separating from the government, hating what the government's doing, hating what the religions are doing, hating what was done to them in their lives growing up by other humans, and that's separating from what became the status quo over thousands of years. That is genetically imprinted on a lot of people. And even the evil behavior is genetically imprinted on people. But that doesn't make them irresponsible for it. That they're choosing to entertain that. It's like if you sat around all day thinking about how you were gonna hurt somebody, you're gonna actually manifest that. It's like that, like Dark Desert Highway was talking about in that reel that I've been talking about during the stream. That you're digging a rut for yourself. The word iniquity, he said, meant that it was like in a road where you're going over that road over and over again, and your wheels are digging into the gravel each time and making a deeper and deeper rut that eventually you can't get out of that. You can't turn out of that. Because actually, if you tried to turn out of it, you would turn over, because you'd hit the side and you'd be toppled over with that analogy. And so you don't even try when you get so deep into the rut. You don't even know what's outside that rut anymore. And anything in the human kingdom can be justified by people that are in these ruts. And we're all in degrees of ruts, but we can all get out of them if we don't let ourselves get too deep in it. And being open to new understandings about things and seeing things in a more realistic way and actually feeling the emotion of that is a degree of separating from that and separating from the human kingdom, what the human kingdom has become. Not that the human kingdom is bad as a unit. It's not bad as a unit. It's an evolutionary strata that is part of the building blocks that was created for us to have life. Like I was talking about a question that Bertrand Russell asked on his page, and I became a member of that group recently. And so I had something to say about it. And one of the things that he asked, I don't know if he's still alive, but was why does an all-loving God allow evil and suffering? In the philosophy of religions, this paradox is known as the problem of evil. It frequently serves as the primary justification for skepticism regarding the existence of the Judeo-Christian Islamic deity. Uh, um, but Tiendo clarified, and Jesus talked about this too, that it's to help us, accelerate us. It's fertilizer. It's like putting literal feces on the tomato plants or the guts from the fish, because that's what I did when I was a kid growing up, because my family were fishers. Even some of the family were professional fishers. But my dad and uncle and granddad were, and my cousins that went out on the boats with them, we were, fishing for food. And, it was just something that we had in our programming, my dad, and something they liked to do. But they ate everything they caught. And we took the guts from those fish that I cleaned them. It was my job to clean them in the basement. And we put them on the ground in the backyard, and then they planted tomatoes. And that's the way farms work. All the farms grow better when they have the decayed material available to stimulate the growth. Now, you can give it too much fertilizer, and the plant will actually not thrive. It'll get burned, and the roots will get destroyed. They won't be able to absorb the nutrients. And so the next level is working very hard all the time, and they've created systems that have a lot of this happening seemingly automatically. But it's by the free will and the choices that everybody makes on the content of their minds and what they do. And uh, and so um, that's the reason I believe that all these things that were hidden for so long or talked about in some philosophical way for so long um, are now right up in the front of people's minds. And it's a confrontation with reality. That it's time for that to happen. Even though it's creating, it's separating, well, the souls that still have goodness in them from the souls that don't. Souls that don't uh, uh, they become the fertilizer. They become the dung. waste by their own choices, not somebody else's choice. I'm not putting them down because it's not up to me to what to do with those souls when they are deceased. But to work against them is not a bad thing. And how to work against them, that's the question that I would propose everybody seek the answer from the highest source that they can pull in on how to combat them. And maybe the way that things have been happening. What comes natural a lot of times is the best way to go about it. Like when you have this problem right on your doorstep, I mean, how can you then, I mean, you still can walk away from it, run away from it, hide from it, and not bring down people that do that. But some people aren't going to be able to hide from it, even though they know that there might be a risk to not hiding from it. I think this is the reason why Iran is in a terrible condition right now. The United States is also in a terrible condition right now. Other places in the world are in terrible. It's not that they haven't been in terrible conditions before, and they could even be seen as the amount of casualties was worse before, but it's not over in terms of the amount of casualties. It's not over, and the casualties are coming in all different kinds of ways because there's all kinds of deceit happening. It has been happening in big time, uh, especially since 2000 in the United States, but all over the world as well. Nobody's absent from lesson opportunities. The next level does not waste any developing goodness. They've got systems in place to where everything that does have positivity in it, goodness in it, has the chance to multiply it. Doesn't mean that they're automatically going to multiply it if they don't use it, if they don't put it into use. Because the next level isn't about sitting around and meditating, even though meditation can be a very, very valuable thing to do. I mean, essentially, in our daily lives, different types of meditation are necessary, in my opinion. I've used meditations many times for aches and pains that I've had over the years that I didn't know what they were, and I was afraid, I was a little bit fearful that of going to the doctor. Not that I wouldn't go to the doctor if I knew I had to. It takes me a while though before I get to the place and I say, I guess I just got to get this over with. I got to do this, and then go in that direction and see how it goes. And then I ask when I'm on the way to the dentist office after, when I'm having terrible tooth pain, which have happened many times. I'd be talking to the next level and saying, help me get through this. I don't think that's weakness to ask them for help, but some people would say it is. Some people would say, man up. Why can't you, just, you can't, you got a poor tolerance for pain. What kind of a wimp are you? And some people do have that attitude. And every attitude under the sun is out there. And they'll be in your face if you do things on the internet. Some of them. Hopefully, we try not to stimulate them, and learn how to deal with them, that negativity when it comes to us in all the different forms that it comes. Actor Michael Merchant, hello. Yes, I'm doing okay. Joseph Coates, have you guys heard of Ariel school UFO incident in Africa? A craft landed by school during recess and came out of the craft and gave the kids visions of Earth and one tree with one Earth with one tree and bad weather. Okay, wow. So that tree sounds like the tree of life. The tree of experience of life. That's the blessing that we've received from whatever brought this planet and the life forms on it about, because we know humans didn't do it. So whatever that is, that formed this genetic tree that is also a genetic mind tree developing. That's what I mean by that. It's a structure. The mind has structure to it. Just like if you thought about what's on your mind in a given week or so, or, whatever. If you put all the things that crossed your mind that you wanted to do or not do, or opinions about this, or different points of view of different things, that's all like compartmentalized database. That's like an organized structure of material that doesn't die when the vehicle dies, and it continues to grow by its experiences and how it responds to those experiences with a vehicle. That's why the only way you can grow that mind is by having a vehicle that is having experiences. So the idea of getting to a higher place when you die is to me, it's a twist by the lower forces to have you think that it's better when you're dead because you have more freedom. Like if you know that you can go to Saturn, the planet Saturn, after you're dead, and you can just go there, you can have fun going there. Okay, you, you can think that when you're in a vehicle, you can think that that's going to be more fun than doing what you do have to do in the human kingdom, because it's so hard in the human kingdom to do things. By just floating over to Saturn, you can maybe be with other people that like to float over to Saturn. If spheres can go that far away from the atmosphere of the Earth and the immediate atmosphere of the near space around the Earth. I'm just making it. I mean, I've actually, this is a real circumstance because I've talked with people that that's what they believed, and I'm not, it doesn't really matter to me if somebody believes that and they get it. So we're all going to get what we believe, and so if they're going to float around and go to Saturn, power to them. Go for it. Maybe that's a certain lesson grade in school that they've learned everything else, and the last step is learning that there's something else besides having freedom. Because if somebody becomes a member of the next level, they won't want freedom because they will be so in love with what they are doing. They will love the structure that keeps them safe. They don't want the freedom to walk outside the spacecraft and see what it's like unless they know that their vehicle's not going to die from it. Of course, that's an obvious way of looking at that, right? But they don't want the freedom to go to another planet and try to start a human civilization. They're having so much fun and so much uh, uh, um, uh, new things. They're learning so many new things all the time, and they're improving their own self so many times. And seeing that, and they're having struggles with that as well. And um, but they're recognizing that those struggles are part of the growth process, and that they don't want to do things that they don't have instructions to do. Like I was talking about in the last live stream, when I was trying to describe my perspective that of how those individuals fell away. Talking about them in the terms of the religious terms being the Luciferian, space alien, fallen angel souls. I like to put all those words together to link it to the record books of the fallen angels and all that, and Lucifer as being one of them. All right. Yeah, I have heard of the Ariel School UFO incident in Africa. Uh, I think I saw like a documentary about that. Um, and yeah, that sounds like it might be a next level, uh, um, something next level. But it could also be space aliens, or I mean, technically, I guess it could be humans inside. It depends on whether they had um yeah, I don't know, but it doesn't mean it's a negative. If it is, even if it is space aliens, it doesn't mean it's a negative for those people at that moment. Um, uh, because people can grow up very, very quickly uh, to reach for the truth if they get a few things out of the way, especially um, like if somebody thinks that it's preposterous that there's other people living on other planets in this universe, and that some of those other people living on other planets in this universe have transportation, have physical bodies. If they think that's preposterous, then they're going to have a hard time uh, opening their minds to a whole bunch of ideas that make sense once we get past thinking that doesn't make sense. And so a lot of the pieces of the puzzle come together when we have certain experiences. Um, like I was talking about before, with the experience I had with the Z in the sky, um, even though I didn't know at the time what that was opening my mind to, it was serving as opening my mind to something more than I had at the time. And I might have been one of those individuals that uh, Tiendo said uh, maybe didn't come from the next level, or it doesn't really matter, you know, because they felt like there were some uh, that were in the class that didn't come from the next level, and so they felt those individuals were doing very well to be able to stay in the classroom because the classroom becomes increasingly difficult to stay in because the focus gets increasingly more and more focused on what would seem to a human to be a negative of giving your will over to Tiendo as representative of the level above human. And I've told people many times that it was approximately 1977 or 78, maybe more towards 7, when I remember we had an outdoor meeting. I don't know where we were camping at the time, but we didn't have the meeting like when we lived outdoors in big tents and small tents. We had meetings inside the tents. But this time, I don't think we had any of those big tents yet. And it might have been Wyoming. I'm not sure exactly where it was, but uh, but we were outdoors and we all had our folding chairs because every member of the group had their own little, lawn chair, folding chair that we would take to meetings and set them up, and then T and would set theirs up, and they would sit there and give us a meeting. I remember that meeting. I was kind of towards the back, and T and was sitting up up front, and T said, "You have to give us your will." 1977 or 8. You have to give us your will to about to less than 100 people for sure. And I remember when I heard that, I didn't I didn't think negative about it. It made sense to me. I don't know how I can try to explain why it made sense, but uh, anyway, but it doesn't make any difference. It made sense to me, so it didn't turn me away. But some people, no doubt, had a problem with that. And I'm not saying they were wrong for having a problem with that. They're not wrong. If you have a problem with something, it's something to face and decide whether it's something of a reason to no longer participate in that group because of, or figure out what that means, or go with it until it does feel, you do feel differently about it. And that's why I'm saying it was hard to stay in the group, because you had all these expectations right from the beginning. Right from day one, they told you the truth, that you have to disconnect from your past and not think about it anymore. The individuals in your past are where they need to be, and you are where you want to be. Or they're where they want to be, and you're where you want to be. And if you want to be in this classroom as a student, then you're not going to use your energy to reminisce about the past and want to make a phone call every once in a while and find out how people are doing, and then find out that, oh, why don't you come to the, your somebody died, and you need to come to the funeral, or you're having a birthday party for your dad, and why don't you come to the birthday party? He's going to be 70 years old or whatever. I mean, all those things. If you multiplied that towards like 100 students, there probably wouldn't be a day in the year where somebody wouldn't want to be traveling, to and then they would be missing out on all the many things that take place in our minds and our bodies when we're going through the intense focus that doesn't look like intense focus on the outside, but does require intense focus to stay with 100%, which you never actually get to 100%, because there's always something that's challenging while you're in the human kingdom. There's always going to be genetic timing that goes off, and in like when people get to a certain age, there's like genes that kick in that start to have them think differently about life, and they call it a change of life, or they're having a, what do they call it, something breakdown, life crisis, yeah, and they're re-examining things, and you know these things don't just necessarily happen by accident. There's all kinds of things that trigger different genes from going off, um, and experiences of the ancestors that got passed on to us. So I'm getting off the track. So let me go back to the chat room. Yeah, greetings, Joseph. I skipped a few people, so let me see. Okay, Noxious, you're up for this one, and that's not what Zionism is. Okay, I haven't gotten to all the ways of looking at it, but if you got something that you can just say in a short sentence of what Zionism is, I'll read it and I'll look at it and examine it and think about it, okay? And Joseph says, greetings, and I already read the next thing from that UFO incident from Africa. Thanks for sharing that, Joseph. And Michael Merchant, and basically telling us, Joseph says, basically telling us to take care of our planet because we're still to blame and be held responsible. Well, yeah, I agree with taking care of the planet. I agree with not uh, abusing it and the life forms on it. That's part of it to me. Not abusing the life forms on it. And I've talked about many times how uh, Doe wouldn't have me cut a bough off the tree unless it was absolutely necessary to keep the snow from gathering on that tree and knocking down the tent that we were living in. Cutting another branch that didn't need to be cut. I mean, it wasn't going to be any waste because we were burning fires every night. Sure. Oh, right now? I got to eat alligator now? Oh no, I got to eat alligator. I never had alligator.
Is old school Dave here? You gotta show everybody.
Okay, this is alligator. See, this is his mouth.
Don't let it fall. It's crumbly.
See, he's even got a mouth.
It's alligator. I don't.
Of course, the breading is like, you know.
Right. Probably because it doesn't taste. You're eating an alligator.
It's a little chewy,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's the way it's cooked.
I think that they are chewy and they. Oh God. Ew. Show that.
It's almost got like a shrimp kind of
That's what I thought too.
look to it. But it doesn't taste,
It doesn't
it's a little fishy maybe.
I wondered if it
Tiny,
was
tiny
more
bit.
like dirt. I hope old school Dave's here. Old school Dave, are you here?
I haven't seen him yet.
He was there.
Can you throw that out?
Oh.
A little piece of black something.
Well, it had a lot of spices on it and stuff. Are you gonna eat it all?
I guess so. I'm honoring the alligator's death. I'm not really, I'm concerned about that, but I don't like to waste things.
Do you want a drink? You're not kissing me with that alligator. I'm kidding. No alligator mouth.
Well, you don't know that I heard that thought before you said it.
Yeah, I looked at the order and it was like 2 fried alligator. I was like, oh, hell no. I gotta see what this is all about.
Now I can say that I'm a worldly person.
Like, should I ask them for some sample of alligator? And old school Dave was like, yeah. Emboldened. I don't have room for all my drinks to go back in the fridge, so I gotta finish. Oh, I'm sorry I came home and you said it'd be hard to ignore me, and you were right.
Fine, it's all good. That's what's good about having your own stream and you're not, you don't have to be any one way. You can't have the sweet, Actor Michael Mergen says, you can't have the sweet without the sour. To have good, we need to have evil. Well,
Oh, it doesn't matter, sorry. What do you think
well, I already talked about what the way I thought about it, that it's like a fertilizer for us. Well, yeah, I can address that though a little bit, for whatever it's worth. Michael Merchant, right? The best example I have is that it's accelerating to have the evil. It's accelerating opportunity for growth. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you can't have goodness without that evil, because you can. An example that Tiendo gave was that there are planets where there are life forms growing on it that are equivalent to humans in their appearance and their their functions and everything. But they don't have the lower forces, the evil here. They don't have the ones that fell away and went against the next level and are trying to get people to go against the next level's reality. They're not present. They're not around. So they're not stimulating negatives. That doesn't mean that there's still not good and bad behavior relative to what the people would agree is good or bad behavior. Like, let's say jealousy is an issue between two people. They're jealous over somebody else, right? However that happens. And let's say it gets to where they're fighting against each one another. They don't have to have the lower forces to impose that jealousy on them. They can just have not developed their own self, I don't know what the word is exactly, but
Work?
yeah, so that they're not threatened by if somebody wants to do something that they don't want them to do. You know, it doesn't, they might be hurt by it, you know, but it might not result in a fist fight, you know what I mean? Or an end of the relationship, right? Right. So so that's like a difference. So goodness, I believe, can always and those individuals in that planet on that planet that don't have that lower force to stimulate the negative in an accelerated way, well, they're still learning lessons that are valuable to their growth. And in fact, it's probably from one of those kind of planets that some individuals ended up becoming members of the next level, working among other members of the next level, even if they were doing their own thing, seemingly their own thing, like observing the planet, like the Watchers of Enoch talked about. Um, uh, they apparently became members of the next level to that degree in an elementary service condition, without having exposure to the circumstances that would tempt them to go against the next level. In other words, compete with the next level. That's a better way of saying it, being against. Because competition of like
They know better.
yeah, compete. It's like right, I know better than you. I don't need to ask you for your way of doing it. I can see what the best way to do it is. You know, and I want to try my way of doing it. Yeah.
Care that for a specific reason. Care about that. My way's better. Right?
Right, and some
Even if the person's way may be faster or more efficient, it doesn't matter. The next level wants it done. Maybe the slowest way.
yes, right, exactly. You don't know what all is involved necessarily in the way that the next level wants to do things. And I talked about this in my last stream from the car, in terms of you know, apparently the tasks that those individuals were given that fell away, broke away, went against, separated from, uh, was to watch, to observe, to and not try to change the humans, what the humans were doing, not try and if while they were doing that task, if they saw something that was happening, they were to report on it, because that would be what I understand the way the next level would operate. That they would expect to see anything that came to mind that happened while they were observing humans, that they think that their older members might want to do something about. They would want to bring that to the attention of the older member through a report. Now, let's say something was happening to where a a whole bunch of humans on a planet were being observed by some elementary school members of the next level, and something happened, and all of a sudden a whole tribe was going to be wiped out by a flood or something. Okay, yeah, it's very pretty. So what if? And so the observers are seeing that, and they can look ahead and they can see that something's not, and they don't know that the older members would want that to happen, but they don't know that they have time to communicate and get response back. But they try because they do have communication channels, but they're always not always open. There's different things this is practical reality. We're not talking about like everybody having access to everybody at the same time at any given moment, through the mind communication. Because people put their minds on different things that they're doing, and that becomes where their focus is. And if they don't have instructions to pay attention to what this crew is doing all the time, then there might be a gap in time to where they're not going to get the update on how to handle that circumstance. And so they might have to choose to take an action that they don't know is what their older member would do, and then they would report what they did, and they would try to take the least action they could take so that nothing's irreversible that they do. So, or not recoverable from it. And if they do something that is a mistake, according to the older members, then they learn from doing that when they learn about what the right thing would have been to do, and so that they can put that in their database on how to respond the next time some kind of equivalent circumstance comes up, or simultaneously, the next level older members, when they see the way they responded, if there was some problem with that, then the next level would put some things into motion to make a positive out of it. Okay? So nothing will be lost from it. And from whatever choices the other ones made. So, if this all was evidenced in Tiano's classroom. You can hear it in the tapes many times to where Tiando would correct us on something, and then they would come back and put a procedure in the book that you can do this and do this. The very things that the person that first did it wasn't in the right to do it. Right meaning it wasn't the choice that the older members would have made in that circumstance. So it didn't mean that their choice was good at the time, but it was used for good. And then the older members don't sit back and say, well, since you didn't do it right, we're not going to do that. No. What they do is they have their communication with their older members going all the time. If it's something that they don't have a way of handling from the existing knowledge that they got from their older members and their experiences. They didn't just get it from the older members like they told it to them in a lecture. No, it's all experiential. All of it's, even though there's lectures and talks that add a lot, but that's the experience. That's part of the experience. But until you're actually doing things to change what you would otherwise do because of your genes and your environmental upbringing and all the other influences on us, and then you recognize that as not as good behavior that you want, and then you desire to change it, and then you start to put into motion the desire to change it and then the changes of it, however successful you are at it. Because you're going to continue, we're all going to be continuously tested with how to handle things better. And that's the process. That's what's going on this planet. It's meant to be that way. It is a process. It's not something that you learn about in one sitting or from reading a book. You can get ideas about it in a book, but unless you're actually having experiences, you're not going to get the growth that the book doesn't provide without the experiences. Let me get on to the next. So, I mean, to put one little sentence on the end of that is that those individuals that made their own choices to help humans, even if it looked like it was a good thing, like helping them learn how to use herbs for healing or something, um, uh, um, they might have thought, well, this is, I mean, why wouldn't the older members want to help humans with this problem by helping them recognize that if they harvest this herb and put it in a tea and they drink it, they're going to get help for this problem. Why wouldn't the older members want to do that? And so they might think, well, we don't need to ask about it. You know, even though our task didn't say to instigate new dietary programs or health programs, you know, it wasn't part of the task. And so the older members, when they see that happening, at some point they communicate that to those younger members, and then it's up to the younger members to decide whether the next time they come up with a circumstance like that, they're going to check first if they have the time to check, or check afterwards if they don't have the time, and then get the lesson from it. The lesson could be that they did a great job. They chose exactly what the next level would have had them do in that circumstance. So, you know, power to them. Now, the older members aren't on an ego trip. So they're not trying to lord over people. No, in fact, you have more freedom than humans have in that regard. Because there are many humans thrive on lording over people. You know, they think that, well, I'm this or I'm that, and I become this or that, or, you know, I believe in the ultimate God and this or that, and you're doing wrong by doing that. You're wrong by doing that. And I'm better than you because you're wrong and you need to be enlightened. And sometimes they're going to be right, but sometimes they're not going to be right. But they're not necessarily going to see the difference. No. $700?
The first stream got 200 something, and then the second stream got 200 something. So if I had done it, if I'd been able to do it all in one, I would have gotten 1,000.
How many hours was that?
The first stream was a little over an hour, and then I got to the Buddhist temple.
Right.
And then I can't. The new phone won't go on the 5G network. It won't. It just won't do it.
Oh.
It's done it once before, but it won't do it again. I needed a SIM card for it. So I have to stream on my old phone. And that is really pixelated.
Oh, I noticed that because I went to that one first.
Yeah. If the phone, I know now though, like if I just stand there and don't move.
Right.
For about 10, 20 seconds, then it clears up.
It catches up, right.
So, unfortunately, I was moving around quite a bit, but I was going slow, but I'll know that for the next time I go.
Yeah, I didn't watch much of that because I wanted to get to your current one.
I did it for myself. But more, you know. When the bell started, the guy started doing the bell. Like, I got him doing the bell and everything. It's great. And then I went back to the car, and then the last stream was almost 9 hours. That's how long I worked.
Michael Merchant was saying that if we all just were perfectly good, what would be the opposite to highlight what is good? Is that like the Christian thought of freedom through God's laws?
I we have to have
that
an opposite?
that the wait, I want to read the rest of this. That the laws are there to lock us down, but to but to provide us true freedom.
What if there are no laws? What if it's all just man-made? What if?
Well, I believe there are laws. There are God's laws. And not killing humans to me is a God's law.
But like
It's a law from the next level.
God kills people.
But they have the right
Feel
to.
like
They
we
create them
have the
also.
right to.
They create them also.
God also. Here's where I'm like.
But they're not killing people. They're killing
Hold
vehicles.
on. God uses people to kill people.
No. Well, yeah. Well, if they want to, if they really want to do that, they'll maybe not let. They'll not stop them. You can say that, but I don't. I wouldn't put it as God is using humans to kill other humans.
I recall, and I think it's a concept. It's a thing that we can't understand as humans. Like Tiendo talked about, there are next level things that are next level things. Period. And humans cannot even conceive of it.
Right.
We can't even imagine it. Okay, so I think that good and evil, we can't even imagine that neither of those things actually exist.
Okay.
We can't even conceive of that.
Right.
So what we can conceive of, we put on that everything has to have duality. There has to be a yin and a yang. There has to be a good and an evil. There has to be, when
But that's what we're capable
hold
of.
on. When I can't, if it was Nerodi, no, what was it? That she said, she was talking about the prisons, and because you guys were working on prison reform for a little bit, or maybe which class member was that? But she was saying it's hard for me to see the suffering, and it's hard to see all the wars and all the death and the evil, and that's the lower forces. And Doe said, "Now, hold on a minute. Why are you automatically going to that's the lower forces? Why couldn't that be the next level, using a war to wipe out 500,000 people?"
No, you're right. I remember that.
I'm using my own words.
Yeah. No.
Twisting it through my filter. I don't think I'm twisting
No.
it.
No. You're not twisting it.
So that is like, but I am
Right.
twisting it because I'm saying that's the next level, using humans to kill humans.
Right. And like I said.
To assist them in recycling.
Yeah.
Like when I went to the Buddhist temple today, I was one of maybe 4 other white people there. And you know what the white people there were doing? Picking up trash. They were acolytes. I don't know what they're called when you go to the temple and you say, "I'm giving my life to you, and I am going to serve, and I will do whatever you tell me to do."
Right. Right.
The people that I saw, I'd been seeing them on the walk. So to see them there, but the first person that I saw was a white guy that had a big trash can, and he was picking up all the trash on the ground. And I was like, I could do that too.
Mm-hmm.
He was the only one doing it at that point. And I knew that in 30 minutes, a bunch of people were going to be there. So I was like, I can assist with this.
Right.
And it felt so good. I did that for 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I walked around and I picked up all the trash with them. And while I was doing that, there was a monk that came out and started sweeping. So that swish, 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 swish sound was out. And then a female monk came out and started sweeping too. And they made eye contact with me a couple of times. And I saw the master,
Mm-hmm.
the head guy,
Mm-hmm.
not the guy that started the Walk for Peace,
Mm-hmm.
his teacher.
Right. Not the guy that was bending down at his feet, but the guy that was getting
Yeah,
the monk,
the head teacher at that.
the monk's respect in that regard.
So I saw him walking in the garden and with somebody, and they were talking. And that, I don't know, like, it's hard to explain. But
No, it's
being
not.
in the
I mean,
presence of people like that, it's like I feel like that way around some nuns. And I feel that way around you sometimes. I'm not saying all, like, anyway. It felt good to be in service to not necessarily any specific monk there, but just to
the whole,
yeah,
to
and
the operation.
place and
Yeah.
all the people that came. I had a Vietnamese lady come to me to help her light her incense because she thought that I was one of the people there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just so awesome
Mm-hmm.
that I was like, I wasn't even doing whatever. I was just picking up trash.
Mm-hmm.
And she came up to me and because the lighter wasn't working,
mm-hmm.
and so she thought that I was one of the people that could make that lighter work. That I was with this like I was a part of that family.
I know the feelings you're talking
Yeah,
about.
just by my demeanor of
I'm glad you're having that experience, and have it as much as you want to have it. Is what I feel about it.
It's not connected
Because
to like Tibet.
I had that experience for 19 years, and I know it's
like I don't.
a powerful experience.
A lot of people are like dealing with these monks like they are celebrities now.
Yeah.
Millions of people are following. They've got followers. Blah 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 blah. I don't like care about the end of. I don't know their names or their. I don't see them as celebrities or whatever. Except for when I saw the teacher, the master guy, he was far away, but I could imagine if he got close to me that I would just want to sit down. That I wouldn't even want to look at him because I don't. Like, I didn't go inside the temple because it's not appropriate for me to, because I don't believe that. I didn't light any incense and do any, like, not acting like I'm praying to, but I didn't do any of that because I don't believe in that.
But you still respect the goodness of that.
Well, and there's something to
there is
it
goodness
that
involved in it.
For a long time. I think it's their aestheticism and their complete devotion to
their idea of God, their Buddha,
belief.
the Buddha.
And that's what I'm coming to understand in my midlife crisis that I'm having. That we all are individuals and creation is living individually through all of us. And that is right and that is good. And as long as you are connected to that, whether it's whatever you want to call it, then you're right and you're good.
Yeah, that's where.
And I feel like T and Do are like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kath.
Yep. That's right. I agree with that.
It's 2026.
I know.
It's not 1999.
No.
It's not 1997 anymore.
Right.
When they left.
Right.
And I know that there's always been like, we're not going to get updates. There's no updates. It's not updates.
No, it's not updates. That's not the right terminology, but it's it's
like
changing the lesson criteria.
When Mark asked me if well, we're not doing it right, what you want to do is better, it's like, no, it's different. It's not better, it's just different. And multiple people talking. We
want to participate in that.
And they don't want anybody to participate.
I know, but that's not right.
I agree.
They don't have the right to do that.
And I'm trying to figure out why he's
Well, they have the right to do it, but doesn't mean it's the right decision.
Trying to figure out why he's coming to my stream every day. Like, why? Why? It's starting to scare me, honestly. He's texting me. Like, something is wrong with him.
Maybe.
This isn't some religious thing, like copyright. Why is he in my stream? I stream for 9 hours. There's always somebody there, and it's not you because you didn't wake up till 2.
Right.
I know it's him. I can fucking feel him.
I want to move on to the other
Yeah,
things. Is
sorry.
that okay?
I came over and took the stream.
No, you didn't take it over. It's good. I like hearing from you.
Well, Carla,
I just don't want to get into talking about Mark right now.
you're right. It's because he's in your stream right now.
Well, probably, but that's not the reason. We've been through it.
You're right. You're right. Like when I cotton onto his energy,
Yeah.
like then I'd start reacting to it.
Yeah.
He does have a fucking connection to me, bastard. Well, I'm gonna break it, punk.
So actor Michael Merson said, if we all just were perfectly good, what would be the opposite to highlight what is good? And I don't think goodness doesn't need evil. It's like, do I know that if Kathy says something to me that is hurtful to me, that that it, that it would be best for me to not say something that's hurtful to her back? I know that. Kathy's not evil for saying something hurtful to me, because it may be true, actually. You know, she might be pointing out something that I could improve. And so, but I could take it as uh, criticism of me, and then I could want to come back at her and criticize her instead of saying, thank you, I'll examine that. That's what happened in the classroom. Exactly what happened in the classroom. Because for a long time, for years even, we had the procedure of having partners, and the partner's job was to bring up to the other person. Well, first of all, each partner needed to ask the other partner for their input. Now, can you imagine asking somebody that you really don't like for their input on what you were doing that might not be good? That might not be right? That might not be according to the way that the teachings were taking us? Okay? No, you would probably like want to strike out if that person brought something up. You'd want to strike, even if you ask them on a good moment, like when you're in church, you know, then you're feeling better, like during a meeting, for instance, with T&O. Yeah, but on a stream, you are on the best behavior. Yeah, right. Well, we don't really go through that much. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we do, yeah.
That's what I'm doing when I drive home after I stop the stream.
You're getting rid of all your
And I'm
negativity.
raging 'cause I did it again today. I also don't know if it's that specific stretch of road. Because I started raging in that same kind of area.
Well, it's possible both are true. It's possible outside influences are you know, you're in a circumstance where that kind of negativity is dense, more dense.
And everybody is feeling it because everybody starts raging. We all start raging on each other.
Yeah,
It's
and
great.
it's like a disease. And so we do know when something is good without seeing the evil part of it. You know, taking, you know, good and bad isn't, you know, like bad isn't all bad necessarily. You know, it's like if someone is criticizing you, they're not being bad necessarily. Huh?
That's one of our job is to get rid of the bad stuff. I mean, in part, that's everybody's job on this planet. If they come to recognize
By dumping it on somebody else.
No, I'm just saying, you and I, and like we keep getting triggered in certain spots because we need to deal with the bad stuff that's in that spot.
Yeah.
Not within us, but in that spot.
Well, but if it's affecting us to where we're acting in that way, then we're also responsible for having that behavior.
So how we counteract it is not engaging in that behavior, and then that in turn reflects to all the people around us.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
right.
They'll pick up on our thoughts as opposed to the thoughts of the nasty being.
Of staying in that nastiness and getting out of it. And
well, that's what I did. Like the other night where I just slammed on the brakes and jumped off, and we ended up adding an hour onto the thing and going through crazy where the hell were we?
Yeah.
There was oil. I took a picture of it.
And all of a sudden, then you were like
I was okay.
a different person
Once we got
from
off the
what
road,
you were right before that.
that road, maybe somebody died building it.
Combination.
But you react to it too.
I know, I
It's
do.
not just me.
I know I do.
Everybody's-
Well, Tiendo talked about that. Like when we moved to Salt Lake City area, and then we moved away from there, we found out that Tiendo felt like the influences were too strong there for us. Right. With me, you mean? I don't know if that was the area or something that I needed to. Yeah, I don't know how to think about that, because it was right before the entrance. I mean, like a mile away or something.
The thing is for me is there's no way around that intersection where it happened. There's no way we can get to the campground without going through that intersection, unless we have to go like, I can't remember. We'd have to go like all kinds of crazy way around that lake and then come back around to come from the turning right into it, because we turn left into it. There's no other way.
Wouldn't that be funny if that intersection had a accident because somebody choked and somebody died there, and so
Surprise me.
it kind of got into me enough to where I didn't take care in the way that I was drinking. I took that second sip of water when I was already coughing.
And passed out while driving.
Passed out.
6,000-ton motorhome.
But I was driving very slow there.
But still.
Yes, right.
If I hadn't grabbed the wheel, you would
I was going through the intersection into the oncoming traffic.
Which they stopped because they realized something was going on.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't grabbed the wheel, you would have hit the traffic pole and this huge utility box that was right there. You would have taken all of that out, and then we would have kept going because we're in a 6,000-ton RV.
It's not 6,000 tons.
However many tons this thing is.
Maybe it's 6,000 pounds. I don't even know what we weigh.
Is it 6,000 pounds? Isn't that
3 tons. 2,000 pounds to a ton. The way I remember it. Yeah, I think so.
It'd be one ton, 1,000.
I don't know why.
What?
I don't know. Yeah, right. Why can't there be a measurement for 1,000 pounds? Why can't it be a decimal system, right, of accuracy? Well, the metric system is like a kilo is 2.2
Because it's like so precise.
kilograms. 2002 kilogram. I think it's 2002. And anyway, so let me get on with well, yeah, I think the laws are there, yes, to provide us, not to lock us down, but to provide us true freedom, yes. Because by living by the next level laws, you can actually look at the practicality of that. How do people get along when no one's killing each other? Isn't that better?
Like we discussed, we were talking about, you can't have, that's the problem with the world right now. There's too many people. Like we were talking about, like deer. Deer have natural predators. All animals have natural predators. So who are the predators for humans? The predators that can wipe us out.
Other humans?
Other humans, right. So yes, animals kill us, and they do, but it's not like a mass extinction event.
No.
Like we are capable of mass extinction animals, and we have done so. We have extincted
The buffalo.
thousands.
Yeah,
Well,
actually,
most
there
of
are
them
still
buffalo.
buffalo, yeah.
But no, the dodo bird, I think they've actually made some more. But
Different species, yeah.
there's thousands of species that have gone extinct. What did I Dude, Jesus. I can't get this stupid thing back on here.
Oh, you're doing that. Okay. So I want to get back to unless you were not finished with what you were saying. But yeah, it's all good, Kathy. I, I'm just going to keep on going back to the chat because the freedom, yes, but true freedom, in my opinion, and I believe through Tiando's teachings, that makes sense to me, is true freedom, is no longer being ruled by our vehicle or anybody else. Now, if we voluntarily uh, say to somebody, "I want to work for you," even if it's because of necessity to have food and clothing and support our families and whatever it is, that's still us asking for that service, and that service is going to restrict our freedom in some way. But we're free to make that request, and that's the next level way. That they're not going to do anything for us unless we ask them for that, so that they don't interfere with our freedom of choice. But you can say, you can turn that around and say, but we don't have the choice of when we die, do we? Well, sometimes we do, but sometimes we don't. It doesn't seem like we do. Maybe we always do, and we don't even know that we're choosing, by our behavior and ways, and and or not doing certain things differently when we get the notification that we could do something differently, like we decide that it's okay to drive 120 on the road. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not just saying that because I don't think you drive 120 very often. No,
It's alright with driving faster. This car doesn't like to get too.
I don't think I ever
Do you
drove.
have
I might have
something
drove
that
a little bit
Do you have
120.
something I can stick on this and twist it off? You're not. Because I can't get a grip on it. Your finger.
What's actually going to be that little thing in the side
This
inside?
thing needs. This whole thing needs to be twisted off.
Where's the bottom of
Don't
it?
twist this part off.
Oh, okay.
Only this little cap. That's why I'm saying I need something that'll clamp, that'll go on this and go like that.
Pliers?
Where are they?
We got the ones that by the bathroom there. But you want to put a cloth in between that and the threads, otherwise you can wreck the threads. Oh, that's not going to be enough. You need a needle nose pliers to get into that little thing, right?
This whole cap screws off the entire thing.
With the thread on it?
This entire thing just screws off.
That thing is including the thread.
Yes, I just
Okay.
need something to go over the outside of this. Grab the whole entire
So those
thing.
pliers will work for that.
Okay.
But you need to protect the threads. Otherwise, you're going to ruin the threads. Okay, so is that like, right, because true freedom is, the next level also has, they have total freedom. You have the freedom to even not be in the next level anymore. So in other words, you could be sent on a task. Let's say you were sent on a task to bring water to another planet that needs water brought to it. Even though if there was occupants on that planet, they might not know that the next level was providing the water. Okay, I'm just giving that as an additional understanding about it. So But then you could decide to stop bringing the water, okay, because you think there's enough. And then, but if the next level found out that you just decided on your own to stop doing it, they would wonder why. And maybe you don't want to be in that organization. And then you'd be free to go where you want. I mean, if you can get the other crew members to agree with you, and that's what happened with the ones that are called the space aliens that had a spacecraft that they got from the next level. They had vehicles that were made by the next level for them in their initial student level membership. And they chose not to do things the way that they were given instructions to do it. And they repeatedly, and T said that they were given many opportunities to get back on track. Back on track, according to the older members, is looking to your older members' instructions and not trying to compete with your older member. Because the older member doesn't need to have anybody compete with them. They have other students that want to do those things, genuinely want to do those things, and don't think that they can come up with better ways of doing things. And the next level, older members will often give those individuals that don't want that responsibility the responsibility. Because they know that they can trust that they're going to do it in the most right way according to the way that they've recognized was given to them by the older members. But everything isn't laid out. Like the next level, like an example was, like let's say you were given a task for the older members, and the task had a dozen different things that were part of that task to do associated with it. Every time they and let's say they only give you that task when they're ready for that task to be done. So it's not like an ongoing schedule to do a certain task. Okay, so every time they give you that task, they're not going to say, you got to do this and this and this, make sure you do this, 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 and this, and this, and this, and this. All 12 things. They're going to assume that you know what the task is, and you know what the parts of the task is, and you're going to do all those tasks. And if while you're doing all those tasks, something comes up that prevents you from doing it the same way, or is a new piece of information that is going to change some of those tasks, then that's the way you would treat it with the older members. You wouldn't just ignore the other things that you noticed that might change the instructions, unless it was an emergency and you had to change the instructions because they weren't around to check with. Now, I'm talking about specific examples of this that were given to us during the classroom time. And in particular, it was when Lagodi was given a task to come to the trailer when they opened up the trailer for the morning, and they gave a signal to the communication center, which was manned by students watching the window where T and Do were, anticipating that they were going to get up and start doing things. And they would put up like one finger in the window, or two fingers in the window, which meant send one person or another person to the window. And then that person, they would appoint the person that was waiting for service there. Every 11 minutes, 4 people were waiting for service, and in the camp. And so then 1 or 2 people would run up to the window, and T and Do, or just Do, or just tea, but most of the time it was just Doe usually saying things to us, would say through the window, like, go get Lagodi. Have Lagodi do the task that he does in the mornings. And so if I was me, I would then move very quickly to find Lagodi in the camp and then tell him that he's to go to Lynx, go to the trailer, go to where T and Doe were living. They were referred to themselves as Links in the chain of mind to the chief. But just the short word Lynx was identifying that. And so Lagodi would go there, and he would go to the door first, and they would open it up, and they would give him the keys. And he knew what to do. He needed to start the car because he needed to charge the battery on the little trailer that they had. And then he would sometimes maybe he would wash the car or and the different things that he would do to the car that they had. And any kind of little maintenance things that needed to be done, checking fluids and whatever it was that was on his list. So that's an example of how older members work with younger members and how younger members work with older members. And Lagodi wanted to do that task. He enjoyed doing that task. And I didn't think T and Doe were lording over him or taking advantage of him. He enjoyed service. There is a lot of really good energy from serving somebody else. And like T said in the Power of Goodness document, do something for your classmates. Try to make somebody else happy. And then you're removing insulation from your magnet. You're not doing it for that reason. You're doing it because you like the feeling of it. Like Kathy was expressing when she was at the monastery, and was helping with the trash, and was recognized as somebody that was working there at the monastery. She was enjoying that feeling of being of service to the whole operation. And but on this planet, with the lower forces present, some people might be in service, and then at some point they might think, well, how come I can't do that task or that task or that task? Why am I only doing this task? And it's not like it's wrong to want to do more tasks and even be closer to the leaders of the community if that's something that somebody is drawn to. But if they're good leaders, then they would feel that desire from those that weren't in that leadership position and would even give tasks to certain individuals that they felt that from. And that does happen. That happens in the religions. That happens in the Buddhist religion and the Hindu and the Islam and Christianity and Judaism and any of the others that have names. It's not like they're all bad or they're all good. There's no automatics like that. There's a bunch of things that are very problematic with true goodness. But then there's things that are also good about what's happening to the individuals. In other words, T and Doe would say it that at this time in particular, religions are killers of souls. Okay? But that doesn't mean that they're not also stepping stones out of previous bad behaviors or previous improvement of behaviors, additional uh, goodness development, not judging others and not, well, that's all I want to go through. I'm just going to go through the rest of the chat and then I'm going to end the stream. My camera isn't on? My camera isn't on? Oh, look at that. My camera hasn't been on the whole time. How crazy is that? Hmm. Hmm. I just deactivated it and then activated it again. Well, I think I'm going to have to. It shows that it's on. I've got that light on the top. But I miss seeing that. Sorry, folks. Let me finish the stream anyway, and then I'll. Of course, you don't have to act on the evil, but even the fact that you are bringing up the fact that you could do something negative, and the consequences of the action makes the good option better. But maybe I am just thinking of it wrong, haha. I'm not saying you're thinking about it right or wrong. I don't quite know how to say much more to what I already said about it. Um, but I could be missing something that you're saying there. So, well, maybe I do understand what you're saying there because, sure, when we see the consequences of an action, then not taking that action, if those consequences are negative in our minds, in our opinions, in our perspective, then that means doing something else is better. So I think if I understand you correctly, I don't think there's anything wrong with that thinking. Um, Right, as opposed to doing it because God told you to do it, right? Because you're seeing, what I'm saying about that is that that's because we've been in the school. That's the way, that's why we think of it that way. That's why we see something as certain behavior as there being negative consequences associated with it. Well, but because being in the school means that we've had some kind of experience with other people, and we've seen what their behavior does, and 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 that the consequences of it are horrible, and so we don't want to engage that. That's why people, when there's an area that's war torn, uh, some people come to recognizing that I don't want to be here anymore. Let's get out of here, and they become refugees. Right? That's happened. We've seen that happen in many countries, and even becoming refugees because of the actions of the United States. Millions of people in the Middle East and Afghanistan and Iraq and uh, um, Palestine and and Gaza became refugees because of what the United States and European countries were doing in those areas. And same thing in Africa and South America, and people fleeing from war-torn areas frequently, or they're being held, or the religious lobby is so strong that you've got to abide by this religion, this interpretation, this opinion about how to be good in God's eyes, to the degree that you're persecuted if you don't behave that way. Look at the way that women, especially, were persecuted during the Dark Ages, in the in the thousand or the second millennium, or the second 1,000 years before the 2,000-year-old millennium, to where if to where the church was like one with the government, right? And or at least they were siding with each other. They didn't want to upset each other. The same way it happened during the Jesus days, to where the Roman government didn't want to conflict with the leaders of the religious, um, because they knew that the religious had a certain amount of influence over people to revolt and stuff. And so they wanted to stay in power and have relatively good law and order. So they abided by what the religious wanted them to do many times. Okay, so same thing was happening in those Middle Ages, to where the church had become so powerful that the people that weren't officially part of the church group, they weren't monks or nuns or um, uh, preachers, the people that were assigned the priests, or the cardinals or the bishops, all that. If somebody else was starting to do those things that they did in that regard, like read the Bible out loud to the public, that wasn't something that was allowed to be done. I think you could read the Bible on your own. I'm not even sure if that was always permissible, but you couldn't have do it in group. I don't think with other people, unless it was organized by the church to do it. If they did like a Bible study or something, but you could actually, if you continued to do it, you would be called a heretic, and you might be banished from that community, or thrown in jail for a period of time, or even killed, tortured and killed, if that's if they decided that you were disrespectful of them or something like that, or and labeled like a witch. Okay, so uh, that's an example of how the lower forces come in there and twist the goodness of the next level's new information into making it their own, so that only they can do it the way they feel like was supposed to be done. You know, like they were the representatives of the disciples of Jesus being told to go out throughout the world and preach the gospel. And the Gentiles, or the people that weren't a part of that group, uh, weren't supposed to do that. Even Paul talked about that. He said that some have the gift of prophecy and some don't. Well, anybody that's speaking the truth to other people and other people is exercising prophecy, has that gift, whatever degree it is, whether they're eloquent speakers or not. If they're trying to do the best job they can with delivering the information that they believe came from an older member, a representative from the kingdom of God, then uh, then what's wrong with them doing that? Why would you have to, hold them down? But that's what was done, through Paul's teachings. That became teachings because he wrote them down in letters and was telling people what to do and what not to do, and how to do it, and when to do it, when he would visit the different groups of people. And he even came, and the ones that were with Jesus, actually, that learned directly from Jesus, when they heard about it, uh, they sought to have communication with Paul, and he went back to Jerusalem, and they had a talking with him, and they decided that he could go back and continue to talk to the groups of people that he was talking to, but he was going to have a partner. He was going to have somebody assigned to go with him to be his check partner, so that he wouldn't get off on track. And so he accepted that. Power to him, he accepted that. And he went back, and it didn't last very long before he wanted to go his own way. Which, if you don't have a check partner, you have less, like Jesus said, when two or more are gathered in my name, then I am in their midst. Doesn't mean that he's not in the midst of somebody that doesn't have a partner that's doing that same task. But he's saying in particular, when you have a check partner, then you stand a better chance of pulling in what your older member would do, because we don't know how to necessarily think the way the older members think, except by the examples they give us. And when Jesus sent out people to spread the information that he was there, the kingdom of heaven was at hand. It's the opportunity to move closer towards membership existed through his presence. So he sent people out in twos. And T and O did that too, but they didn't do it because Jesus did it. They did it because it works. That's their instruction. That's their way. Doesn't mean that in the next level in the labs that everybody is always working with somebody else. No, there were times in the classroom where individuals had a job to do by themselves. And then there were times when uh, it was more than two individuals. There was two partnerships, or even more than that, crews, or a whole house full of a whole craft full of members of the crew with overseers. That would be the contact point with the older member, so that the older members don't have to give instructions to every member of the crew. They can give instructions to the overseer, and that overseer would try to do the best job they can do of relaying that new instruction to the by writing it down, putting it in the procedure book. We had procedure books for everything, for each little lab. A lab was considered to be like where you wash the clothes was considered to be like a lab because that was where you were taking care of the outfits, the clothing that everybody was wearing, and you wanted to do a good job with it so that you wouldn't have too much soap left in them that could cause rashes, and you didn't want there to be stains because you might need to wear something for your job in the world that looked nice, and and you didn't use too hot of the dryer for too long because you didn't want the clothes to shrink too much. I mean, so you had procedures. So that made it into an experiment. Every time you were performing the experiment, the idea was to come out with the best end result. And if you ran into a kink, then if you had procedure to handle the kink, then you handled it. And you reported what you did in case you didn't handle it in the best way. Doesn't mean that you handled it wrong. It meant that there was another way to do it that was more according to the way that the older members gave instructions and or would do things. Because it's the way you did it that was just as important. Well, it wasn't just as important because getting the task done was very important. And let's say you ran into a problem with your partner on deciding how to do a task. Sometimes you wouldn't try to work that problem out. Like for instance, in the NutriLab, where we were making nutrition lab, where we were making food, fuel is the way we thought about it, to be more objective about it. Um, uh, you had to, if you were feeding the whole crew, a number of individuals were counting on the timing of that for the other tasks that they were doing. And so if you were in the middle of doing something and let's say somebody forgot to do something and some of the food was getting burned, and so what and so the partners got in an argument about why it happened and or trying to figure out why it happened, and one partner might say, well, let's get the experiment out because we still have parts of the experiment that are fine, and then we'll try to deal with the problem that we had. And the other person might say, no, we need to do this right now. And you'll see this talked about, this kind of thing talked about in the audio tapes. I remember when Alex Sodi one time was insistent on following a certain procedure a certain way, but the timing of it wasn't right to bring it up. Unless it was an emergency, unless the house was on fire and everybody needed to stop and go try to put the fire out. Because the next level isn't like static about things. But there's certain standards that they have that they don't compromise. And that's why they make it difficult to become members of the next level because they don't want individuals that are going to compromise certain things that are beyond them to have an argument about or a discussion about, even if it's not argument like in the negative context of that. So actor Michael Merson says, sure, like Pontius Pilate and Jesus, he tried to free him, but eventually he had to give in to the religious leadership to not cause further clashing, I believe, if I remember correctly. Right, that's right, exactly. Yeah, the government are always in league with uh, you know, the powerful of the religions. You see this happening now. You see people that uh, couldn't stand Trump's appearance of being Christian because he never really demonstrated Christian principles. But then again, half probably most of the Christians that exist don't really demonstrate Jesus principles. They have their own interpretation of what things are important and what things are not. How to interpret this way and how to interpret this way in order for them to do what they want to do. Like they say, you can find something in the Bible to justify everything. And that's right. That's true. Because a lot of the things in the Bible are stories that, whether they were made up or not, uh, weren't all right or all applicable, especially over time. The lesson to teach a sixth grader or a fifth grader or a fourth grader or a third grader is going to be different for a seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th grader. And so if you got sixth graders telling the 12th graders that they need to live by this law a certain way, they can only do things this way or that way. They're not allowed to get gender altering surgery. See, that's wrong for a government to tell you that you're not allowed to do that. Like they're not really allowed to tell people whether they can smoke marijuana, for example. But it might not be a bad thing that substances are good to, have regulated so that people that haven't developed good judgment don't get caught up in them. But then again, the way the government does things, it's usually, even though a positive can come from it, it's not it's not very often probably the way the next level would do it. Because they would do it by education. I mean, I'm not saying that they wouldn't have a limit on certain things, but then you see in the human kingdom where they say that you can you can't choose to uh, um, have sex with somebody out of wedlock. Let me just put it that way. But yet you can have a baby out of wedlock. I mean, you can choose to. I didn't mean baby, that part, but you can choose to sign up for the military and lose your life. You can't decide who you want to be with, and you can't decide whether you want to, what behaviors you want to have with somebody else. You can only have behaviors in a certain way or certain times, or with the lights out or whatever it is. What all the laws were. So governments, so they make laws, and they may be okay though, but they're not meant to be punished for not following. But then again, how do you get people to abide by certain laws unless there's a punishment? Like I keep on, because we're drivers, and keep on driving in neighborhoods and apartment blocks where they are actually installing ways to brake your car on the road to keep you from going too fast. Why can't people just regulate their own speed? But then some don't. Or they drink too much, or they do something else too much and they go speeding through a neighborhood where there's kids potentially or animals potentially running in the road and stuff. And so, what are you going to do? So you make speed laws, and then if you don't enforce them, then nobody's going to abide by them, or some people are still going to abide by them because they recognize the value of them, but then other people won't, and it becomes a disruption in the community. So it doesn't mean that everything that the governments do is wrong. Let me move on to the chat. Yeah, yes, actor Michael Merson says, yeah, they are using relevist terms to society, teaching from religions, bend scriptures to suit their needs and wants. Yeah, yeah, they bend things all the time, twist things. And they don't necessarily even know they're doing it. They think they're doing the right thing a lot of times. That self-righteousness is a big problem. Because, I mean, yeah, Hitler, he thought he was doing the right thing too. And the SS and the secret police and the brown shirts and in this other country, the same kind of things happening. In this other country, the same kind of things happening with genocides and in the United States, now it's happening with, I just heard something today about that he was going to allow immigration and just charge immigrants more money out of their taxes to be able to become a citizen. I don't know if that's like a period of time to where they would be paying more to have the right to citizenship. I don't know. I don't know if that is the next level idea or not. I can't tell for sure yet. I'm watching it. I don't know what the full breadth of that was. My last comment. Some people were in the class for the whole time, some a few years. Were they ready for the next level? Sounds like they didn't learn enough. Well, yeah, that's kind of like a given that anybody that still believes in them and didn't stay in the classroom obviously needed some additional learning time, experience in a different setting to learn the things that they hadn't learned or to desire to recognize the things that were holding them back from graduating or not. And so, yeah, I think that, but everybody that was in the classroom might be in that same situation. But some may have already decided that they don't believe in, they think Doe got off track or something after T left. And some people think that way, some of the former members. At least they did at one time. I don't know how they think now, the ones that are still living in living vehicles that I was in touch with. I haven't been in touch with anybody in that regard for a lot of years. So I don't know what anyone's current thinking is. I don't hold people to what they said before, um, to me or to the media, um, except as examples of how what they said about Doe's classroom that some of the medias would repeat. And I'll talk to that sometimes, but yeah, in general, it's right. They didn't learn enough. Uh, I guess that's a simple way to say it. And of course, in the chats, it needs to be simple because we only have so many words we can put in there. So Jerry Campbell said that. Yeah, old school Dave is here now. Good to hear you. Stationary. Yes, I know. I'd rather do these. It's much better, but I didn't even get to all the things about Zion that I wanted to. because there's different aspects of that I thought were interesting, but I think that is kind of like another way of describing um, the way that the geography was on a certain landmass as the primary location where individuals would be standing for Tiendo. But that doesn't mean that somebody, any place in the world, couldn't stand for Tiendo and have just the same opportunity as anybody else to grow as fast as they want to grow. But the primary geography where the next level landed physically with their spacecrafts or crashed spacecrafts, since that seems to be what happened with a number of spacecrafts, um, that might or might not have been a mistake in the way that the older members wanted to arrive on the planet. I don't know. Doe was open to the idea that it might not have been, it might have been a mistake to crash them somehow. Somebody didn't do their job in some regard. Um, but that happened in the United States primarily. Not that also Russia experienced some of that. China, I think, experienced crashes with bodies. South Africa, I think, had some experience with that, or from people landing with a flying saucer and like showing up to those African school children, and like the Billy Meyer experience and that he had in I forgot what was he in, like not Copenhagen, but it was in Sweden, I don't think, or Finland or Denmark. Well, it might have been Germany. I don't remember exactly where Billy Meyer was from, but I think people all over the world have had next level mind uh, given to them, and it becomes available for everybody all over the planet, whether they hear about Tiendo or not, to pick up on things that are with that mind. But the most direct way of understanding what they were all about is, of course, through their writings and their audios and their videos. And that's why there's been efforts afoot to restrict that material from getting to the people that want it, even though people have had access to it enough. Uh, um, though the next level doesn't mean that the next level wanted it to be gradual in the way that it was gradual, and it's still gradual because Mark and Sarah have tapes that they're not allowing people that believe in Tiendo to have access to hear because they're afraid that too much of the tapes being exposed to the public uh, is going to cause people to kill themselves. And yet we've had, I mean, that's not in the from experience, that hasn't been happening. And it's, because the next level and those that work for the next level have a genuine position against the S word, against self-exiting, however you want to say it. Because we need these vehicles to get lessons. We don't learn anything without a vehicle. And the human kingdom was designed to be the environment, to have a vehicle, for the spirit to have a vehicle to take it over and to grow their mind stronger and stronger, so that graduating into a next level spacecraft membership and receiving a next level grown vehicle, physical vehicle, dense physical vehicle, um, is possible. Because if we don't have strength of mind, it would be like taking somebody that knows how to drive a four wheeler or a golf cart and saying, "Here, why don't you go drive that jet at Mach 2 or whatever the speeds are?" And why can't you just go into that jet and learn how to do it, know how to do it, because you know how to drive the golf cart? And that's absurd, right? It's similar in the next level. If you don't have the knowledge, the know-how, the ability to exercise it, because it's not just book knowledge. Book knowledge is really not that much in terms of what we're talking about as strength of mind. It's being able to uh, um, um, identify um, ways of doing things. It's learning to. It's like somebody that becomes a professional driver. Uh, they can do more in the car and be just as safe, even at higher speeds, I believe, as somebody that's um, a new driver, because of their experience. And that experience is a mind experience. It's doing experience. It's acting experience. It's commanding the vehicle to uh, be keen about things, and to be able to judge distances well, and speeds well, and to be able to anticipate difficulties and get around them or stop or whatever it is. And it's the same thing with the next level, that until you have experience with the new vehicle, you don't know how to use the facilities of that new vehicle. Like, let's say, changing your vibrations so that a human couldn't see you, even though you're in a completely physical vehicle that is made out of a type of flesh that isn't like a human that has blood in it and stuff. It might be more like a plant kind of material that has its own, fluids going through it or whatever. We don't know what kind of materials they have to actually literally uh, put together and grow, put together and then have the ability to grow it from like a seed to full adulthood, so that a mind that had grown to have the strength to use that vehicle can be put into it, and they can be right there with having tasks using the facilities that vehicle has. When somebody else that's been in the next level for a long time might have graduated to another strata of vehicle that has other functions that that original vehicle that they had doesn't have, because they gained the strength to be able to do these other things, like make a mountain move, with their mind. That might be an example. If they had a task to do that, and they wanted to do it that way, doesn't mean that they would do it that way, because the next level also, the older members, they don't want to do all the tasks. Like some leaders do that. They don't want other people to learn their tasks, because a lot of times they're afraid that these other people are going to take them over and they won't be needed anymore. So there's a kind of competition and a pecking order. But in the next level, there's not like that kind of a pecking order. It's really not a pecking order. It's that there's that who the older members are, because they have a vibration that you identify and you recognize as something that uh, uh, is greater than you. Even though in the human kingdom we see that too. We can know when we hire somebody that's got 15 years experience working on fixing RVs. When they come and you ask them a question, and they say, well, it could be that, it could be this, but this is the way to fix it. This is another way to fix it. This is maybe the best way to fix it. This is the cheapest way to fix it. And they think about it. They're coming from experience. They know what they're talking about, even though they could be wrong about some of it. But, it would be good for somebody that doesn't know how to fix those things to, to be glad to have the opportunity to pull on somebody's brain that has that experience instead of trying to figure it out for themselves or get the internet to have people explain it, even though sometimes that can really be helpful. But a lot of times, the one thing that they don't tell you how to do becomes the kink. I know, I experience that all the time. But I'm also a type of mind that sometimes can get kinked where other people wouldn't get kinked. Because some people have in their genes and in their upbringing and the strength of their minds that they developed uh, uh, more abilities. And we don't lose those abilities when we become, if and when any individual becomes a member of the next level. Um, in fact, when somebody has developed certain skills in certain departments, even though the next level is not going to be building cars, let's say you developed a skill of building cars. Okay, so the next level doesn't have cars, combustion engines. They have other forms of energy that are cleaner and all that, right? And so that is I think that is from the next level to build electric cars. I don't think that is a lower forces thing to do. But the lower forces, like the space aliens, want humans to develop that because then there's more, in a sense, there's more flexibility. Because let's say you're out in space and there's no oil well, you know what I mean, and a refining process to having gasoline. It would be much better to have like a nuclear powered battery that would last for 1,000 years at a certain rate. So coming up with different forms of energy uh, um, is because the next level has provided that opportunity directly or indirectly when they seed the planet, when they uh, percolate their minds into the planet, into the atmosphere, into the, the mind atmosphere of the planet, the thoughts that are circulating around that last for a certain amount of time, that come from different individuals that are having those thoughts. And their thoughts are added to the atmosphere when they come in and they take vehicles. Because then they have a vehicle that's producing those thoughts so that those thoughts are on the same frequency as other people that can pick up those thoughts regardless of the language. They can pick up the thoughts of how to do things. Or that even pick up on the thought of thinking there's a way to solve this problem. That's the draw, that's the thirst that many humans have. Maybe all of us have in different degrees. Ability to solve problems. And the more we're actually pulling on T and Do's mind, the more directly, uh, uh, the more access we have to solving problems more directly. And they'll help us recognize when we've chosen what they were hoping we would do. Even though if they give us an idea of something to do, it comes with the choice of doing it or not. And how to do it is part of doing it. And that means every step of the way. So if you get a task, if you feel like you asked for help and you got an idea and you wondered if it was from Tiendo's mind, which wouldn't be bad to do, even if you think it was. It's good to question, but doesn't mean that you question it so much that you disqualify it. And what you do is you start to put it into motion in ways don't that can be reversed, and you take steps in that direction, and then you ask, and use your feelings on whether this is what they would do. They would have you go to this place, or meet with this person, or apply for this job, or buy this house, or RV or whatever it is. You would be seeking their guidance for all those things and seeing how it feels. And then if it feels okay, you do your studying, whatever it takes, to find out whether that house is in good condition and all, if that's what you're going to do. And then whether you want to be in that town or whatever it is. And then you take another step in that direction and you see how it feels. And you see if all of a sudden some roadblocks are being put up. And then you don't necessarily know if those roadblocks are a final no about that direction, or that it just means that you need to do something else, or look at another location, or get another opinion. If you get a signal that maybe I don't want to go in that direction, let's say you might need to have an operation. You might think that, okay, it looks like this is a way to solve my problem with my health, and so now how am I going to do it? Does it mean that I have to go to the dentist, or is there an alternative way of having a less intrusive way that requires less drugs into my system and things like that, to knock me out and stuff? Is there another way to handle it? But it might be worth it to have the drugs knock you out so that you can get through it fast. And the body can handle a lot of things. The body can handle. And then you can have more cleansing of the things that might be toxic about those things, so that you can use the best of all worlds when approaching any problem. I'm not saying I'm great at this. I have some experience with this, and I know it's because I'm asking the next level for that help. And then I'm trying to see how things feel to go in this direction or that direction, and not go in that direction for the wrong reasons. Next level grind set. I've heard Henry say that before. Hey chat 07 from Henry. Oh, that means something. I forget what it is now. That S thing from listening to the tapes is absurd. I listen to the tapes often, and it's clear you are listening to a specific moment in time. It was unfolding in real time for the classroom. Absolutely was. It was unfolding in real time for the classroom. It wasn't set in stone to leave by any one particular way, although it was desired always, even up until the time that they chose to leave the way they did, to leave with their bodies, their human bodies, soul body and human body, leave together at the same time. And even the whole class together. Because there were times when Tian Do sat us down and said, We might leave before you. We want you to be ready for that if that's the way it goes. We don't know yet. Yeah, thanks for that observation, Rise Above. The Rise Above Club. There you go. Let's rise above the Human Kingdom Club, right? I like that name. HP. That stood for, maybe that means something. I forgot what that means in the chat nomenclature. But I was thinking of heavy protein. That's what we call like meat. If meat was part of the diet, which sometimes it was called a heavy protein because it takes so long to digest. And that's got its benefits as well because it provides you energy for a longer period of time. It just seems there are clear ulterior motivates for not releasing that information. Yes, it does seem that way. I don't know how conscious those ulterior motives are, but I'm pretty sure it has to do with thinking that uh, people weren't ready to understand and relate to the information on the tapes too fast. So they started when people would ask them for tapes through the rep at Heaven's Gate email address, um, like they sent to Kathy when she asked for the tapes, one at a time, starting from the first one. And I don't find fault with doing that. Uh, I could see doing that and keeping track of it, but it seems like, um, I mean, sure you could kind of, some people would listen to that first tape and think one problem with it is some of those first tapes are so hard to hear that you could think, oh gosh, this is so hard to hear. Do I really want to sit through this? So, that's kind of a negative. But if the person has enough thirst, then they will ask for another tape, as Kathy did, and another tape. And then she found that it was so impractical because you do want to listen to them over and over again, but not necessarily at the same sitting because you need time to digest them. I know that as a fact because that's the way it happens with me. And I've seen that happen with others as well. Okay, folks, I'm going to close it down unless somebody sends something right away. Yeah, Actor Michael Merchant, I think that even more than I said. They gave some kind of a clue that they needed to get this lawsuit out of the way in order to do some kind of project with Rob Walsh and Ben Zeller or others, or others. They gave that indication in an interview to, I forgot his name now, someone named Matt. And on Reddit, that was at one point on YouTube posted. I don't know if it's still there. So I don't know what that is exactly. But they certainly don't want to include me in on it. because they don't like what they've said over and over again is that if they give me the tapes, then they're just going to put them on the internet and everybody's going to have them. And yet, that's been done. And for almost 4 years now, uh, um, those additional, I mean, the tapes have been, about 200 of those tapes were available. Maybe it was 196. Maybe there's a few I'm not counting in there. Uh, but were available for since 1997. And, and there's certainly difficult things talked about in those tapes, but they didn't approve of that, of Carlotti and I giving those tapes away. But Carlotti put them on ForShared for free download before ForShared made it into a site to where if you downloaded more than one, then you had to pay. But if you just listened to one and downloaded it, you could get it for free. I don't know what they're doing now with the ForShared.com site, but that's the way it was when Carlotti first used it, probably about 8 years ago or so, or more than that. And they were allowing that to be there, and they actually lied about that and said that they didn't know about that site at that time. So I think their motivations. If there's other motivations, like I suggested to them that maybe one of their motivations was certain tapes where Doe talked about them both after they left. Maybe they didn't want those tapes to get out. And what Mark said to me back was, that hadn't occurred to us, is the way I think he said it. That hadn't occurred to us. I don't know if he was lying then as well. Because he did think that, whatever things they did before got them sent out of the classroom, and that Doe said about them, they had corrected by being given a task to do what they were doing. And maybe it could have actually been, that could have been actually accomplished, and maybe it did accomplish it to some degree in T&O's mind, because I'm not the judge of that. But I can judge that they're not doing what T&O left to be done, and that's not the kind of thing that we can say, well, they changed all the time, so maybe they changed from that. Because there's certain things that they knew were going to be done in a certain way, and they gave a lot of indications of that. There's probably at least a dozen direct examples of what was going to happen to the tapes after they left that included humans having them and learning from them by listening to them over and over again, like a type of osmosis. That T was participating in saying. So you can't say that, only T said it and Doe didn't or something like that. All right. So that's about it, I guess. So good night, folks. Been a pleasure. Next time I'll make sure that video's turned on. I don't know what I did wrong this time.